Hello, welcome to the third episode of Vital Elements podcast. Today, my guest is unable to join us in the conventional way since where she is, the internet is severely restricted, and for her to show her face could endanger her and her family. I had commented on a story of hers, after which she reached out and wrote me the following. She says, "Thank you for expressing your sympathy with the people of Iran. Please support the people of Iran on your page. I am an Iranian girl. The conditions are very difficult for the brave girls of Iran." I responded saying, "It's heartbreaking. These young women were so brave. I wish you strength and greater freedom. The women of my nation have already forgotten what women before us did for our liberties. I hope these young ladies will be remembered always." She responds saying, "Thank you so much. Our motto is this: women, life, freedom. Every day there is a possibility of girls my age dying in the demonstrations. We Iranian women are a symbol of courage, hoping for the freedom of all women in the world." The next day, I come back and I say to her, "This was on my mind a lot today. Would you possibly be willing to join me on my new podcast to talk about your experiences with this?" She says, "If it helps you, sure, but there is a problem. My face and information shouldn't be known, because this is a crime in my country, and the police will arrest me in Iran. This is to maintain security. They pretend that the situation in Iran is good, while they kill a 16-year-old girl. Anyone who disagrees with them will be arrested." I respond, "Yes, of course, I understand. Your safety is first. But if there's a way for you to help people better understand the situation from a more personal perspective, I think it's worth trying. I think posting on my page might be lost in the static, but a conversation might get through. We can use a fake name and conceal your appearance if that works for you." She replies, "Yes, I like this job. How can I help you with your podcast? I can send a voice message and tell about my experiences. Currently, due to severe filtering in Iran, I am not able to have a video chat." And she follows that with a little broken heart emoji. She says, "I have no problem with my username. My problem is my face, so I don't get recognized. This may harm my family." I reply, "I should have realized. No problem. A voice message would be wonderful." I completely understand. It must be terrifying. I'm sorry that you must deal with that kind of threat. I greatly appreciate your contribution." She replies, "Thank you for expressing your pain, kind lady. It is now 3 a.m. Iran time, and I am tired. Tomorrow morning, Tehran time, I will tell you about my experiences. I must say that I speak with an English accent. That's all right with you?" I said, "Excellent. I'm sure it sounds lovely. Thanks so much again. I'll look forward to hearing your message. I wish you good rest and sweet dreams, and I'll pray for your safety." She replies, "Thank you. I hope we will be good friends." I say, "Same here. Get some rest, friend." The next day, true to her word, I received a series of voice messages, followed with a message saying, "I explained very briefly. Do you need more explanation? Ask me your questions. I will answer." What follows are her voice messages with some fragments of continued text.
Hello, my name is Sara and I'm from Iran. Today I want to talk to you about the events of the past 20 days. The recent events in Iran start with the murder of a girl named Mahsa Amini by the police, and the demands of the Iranian people are increasing day by day. After Mahsa's death, the people of Iran became very angry, and it was found that the police killed Mahsa by hitting her on the head. For 20 days, people have been coming to the street to protest against the oppressive government, and the security forces have been shooting them. All the people of the world have heard the voice of Iran. Iran is a rich country with a beautiful culture and story. The government restricts people's access to the internet, but despite this, Mahsa Amini's hashtag has been seen more than 200 million times on Twitter. Many Iranian teenagers have been killed and many are arrested and tortured. Hadis Najafi, Nika Shakarami, and Sarina Ismailzadeh are the girls who were killed. Recent events have a great impact on my daily life. The feeling of anger makes me go to protests and shout slogans every day. Freedom is important for people in Iran. We have complete prosperity, but seeing the news and events causes us emotional trauma. Security outside the house is good. We have problem connecting to the internet. Yes, I shot the slogan of Women Life Freedom with my friends. The police shot in the university and I was there. Some were injured and some were arrested.
Having heard this all the way through, I said, I'm so sorry to hear of their injuries and arrests. I hope they will be well and safe soon. I admire you for taking these kinds of risks. You seem to have great faith in the power of what you're doing and risking for this. Do you believe you can effect change against these forces? Do you and your peers have any idea of how that could play out? She responds saying, Thank you. We will bravely go to the streets tomorrow. We may be arrested or even killed, but we fight for the freedom of all the women of the world. She goes on to say, We go to the streets for freedom and rights. In the past, our parents were also injured and killed in these protests. Now it is the turn of our generation to defend our rights. We have no weapons while they are shooting us. I go on to ask, what is it that your movement is demanding specifically? What kind of change do you hope to see? She says, they arrested a girl named Nika Shakarami and killed her after raping her. We are protesting to get Nika's right. There are so many problems in our country. The women's movement for hijab is optional, that no one gives an order to cover us, and that they do not arrest us for covering. In response to what she said about Nika, I replied, That's horrible. I'm so sorry. What do you mean by her right? What could possibly make that right? She says, the tyrannical dictatorial government that oppresses people must be removed. We want democracy. I also asked, do you have central leadership or representation? With regard to Nika's death, she replies, they lie about Nika's death. We want the truth. Regarding my question about central leadership or representation, she says, no, our dictator leader orders suppression. We ourselves strive for freedom. Additionally, she tells me, unfortunately, the supporters of the government are among the protesters, and they are spying. They cannot be trusted. I ask, is the hope that other nations will intervene and bear pressure on the government, or are there other plans to effect change from within? This is too tragic, absolutely senseless. How can this end peacefully? She says, U.S. President Joe Biden has sanctioned officials and officials of the country. We are close to the end of the dictatorship. We will not be disappointed. I ask her, are you able to tell me where you're attending protests? And say, I hope that these sanctions have the impact required to end this for you and your families. She replies saying, I am going to a demonstration in Teheran, Iran. Demonstrations of Iranians living in Canada and America took place last week. I tell her, I'm a mother. My eldest is 16. It pains me on so many levels to see this. She says, I'm sorry to upset you too. That's the least, huh? I respond to her, telling me that she's going to the demonstrations in Tehran by saying, wow, so you're right in the thick of it. How does it feel when you're there amidst all of the activity? She comes back to my other comment, saying, my mother worries about me every day. I love my family and my boyfriend, but I still strive for freedom. I say, of course they worry. Do you feel you have their support, though? She says, in response to my question about being at the protests, seeing the news of my peers being killed makes me very angry. In the midst of protests, I scream with rage and run to survive. I will do this for the future. I remark that I can't imagine what it's like for these girls' families. She goes on to tell me that Serena's mother committed suicide due to grief. I go on to say, you must have great passion and faith to take this on. I pray it yields more than you seek. She says, regarding her family's support, they appreciate my courage. I then thank her for taking the time to share this and ask, is there anything else you think others should know? She replies, know that Iranian people are the kindest, most intelligent, most beautiful people in the world. Iran is a big and beautiful country with a tyrannical government. We Iranians are proud to defend our country with courage. Wish us luck. I let her know that if she needed someone to talk with, to please reach out any time. She says, thank you, my good friend. I am glad to have you. I say, I wish you strength and courage and great success. Thank you again. She says, you're welcome. Good night. And in response to her comment saying, thank you, my good friend, I'm glad to have you, I say, likewise, friends are among the greatest of blessings. Please stay safe. She comes back saying, if I am also killed, do not forget me. You have a good Iranian friend. To this I say, you've made quite an impression on me. I don't see how I could forget you. The next day, she sends me a video of a woman being arrested, though she is very conspicuously pregnant. I reply, I hope that she and her baby will be safe in custody and home among those who love them as soon as possible. I ask, do they detain people for long or release them within the day? I also tell her, it's good to hear from you. I worry for your safety. Regarding detention, she said, there is no news about the fate of those arrested. The families of the people are not in the process of their arrest. Many detainees are tortured. She says, with regard to my comment that it's good to hear from her, that I worry for her safety, she says, from today's experience, I must say that they locked us in the subway and shot tear gas at us. It was very scary. Being arrested is more scary than being killed. Some officers rape girls. Those who are freed cannot speak because of fear. After reading what she said about what happens to the girls in custody, I facetiously remarked, "To enforce morality, right?" I also asked if she was there for the tear gas or if she was able to stay clear. I then go on to say that I hope they will have restraint toward a woman with a child. Regarding my comments about morality, she says, "Morality, not just for torture. The protesting people have not committed any crime. The government does not respond to people's protest and does not try to change. It only arrests." Regarding my comment about restraint toward a woman with a child, she tells me, "A 7-year-old child was beaten today." It is very difficult to explain the situation in Iran. You might not even notice it. I will try to send you the news. I go on to write, "I just can't believe the hypocrisy of what they are doing. If the idea is to be decent, where is the decency when they are gassing, shooting, beating, arresting, raping, torturing, and killing? How is this a proportionate response to how a woman dresses, ever, anywhere, under any circumstances?" She says, "This is exactly the problem that all the people are looking for an answer for. And instead of answering, they just beat and shoot. No one answers the people peacefully." She continues to send news of a man who was shot in his car for beeping his horn, and of a crowded street full of peaceful protesters. She says, "Do you see? The people have no weapons in their hands." Inside Iran, no media reports about the protest. This is the media outside of Iran that tells the news of the protest. This network operates in London. I circle back to a comment she'd made about her parents having been involved before her and say, I ask, "What was it like for your parents? Do they have guidance to offer from their experience?" I also say, in response to the violence being committed against those in custody, how does this not deter you? What keeps you going? In response to the question about her parents, she says, "My parents were together in the past protests, but those protests did not reach a result. All they tell me is to protect myself and not hurt anyone." Regarding how she continues, despite the risk, she says, "Iranian people have been dissatisfied with the performance of the government for 43 years. The protests of 1999 ended with the killing of Tehran University students. Once again in 2009, the protests ended with the killing of young people. In 2017, protests against high prices weakened the economy, and many were arrested and killed. In 2020, protests against the high price of gasoline caused people to die again. But this time, teenagers have become aware and defend their rights." Though this is a bit of a departure for the podcast, this young woman, this brave young woman, had asked me to share her story, and I didn't feel that a hashtag or a post of a news story could do justice to what it is I feel speaking with her in real time about the challenges that she and her peers and their families all face right now, and now, and now. I don't expect that I can do this subject justice, but I felt that this was probably the best way to honor her request to share the story, and probably one of the better ways to remind us of what it is we have and why we might want to stop and count our blessings, and why, further, we might want to stand up and defend them, because this is 43 years she's talking about. That's within my lifetime. Throughout the 20th century, right up until 1979, Tehran was a very modern city, and the men and women both enjoyed most of the freedoms we do. It took one tyrannical regime to change the entire landscape. Over the past several years, it's been easy to see a progressive movement towards greater restriction and division, essentially dominating so many aspects of our lives, be they social or professional, and certainly if you're in the media, you are well aware of the changes that have been taking place. And it's not the same, but these movements start somewhere. And we can watch right now in real time how that can play out. And this loss of life, this tragic loss of life, it's inexplicable. And I feel that once tyranny's gone to this level, I don't know the answer. I really don't. But I know that when we encounter it in ourselves and each other, one to one, street level, that's when we need to stand against it. I think that we've become altogether too complacent and accepting of that which doesn't serve us and, in fact, could pose a threat. And for me, anything that restricts freedom of expression, that puts people in fear, has everyone walking on eggshells and choosing their words and looking over their shoulder and trying to remember if they said something in an email 12 years ago. It's not a good way of life. It's not going to allow us to produce and yield what we really are capable of. And if it is left unchecked, this situation that we can file under hashtag news story over there, it could be coming to a reality near you real soon. So I wanted to share this story, and I wanted to take a moment to reflect on how it hasn't always been this way for them. This isn't a backward, undeveloped nation. This is a nation that, again, was tremendously modern until very recently. And it really only takes complacency and mismanagement to end us in a situation that seems positively medieval. Edmund Burke said, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." I think that very succinctly summarizes what it is I'm trying to say here in terms of our responsibility to overcome complacency and respond to tyranny wherever we see it. And it's my hope that through a more personal telling of what it is that these people face, we can, through our humanity, see the reality of it for what it is and not be as dismissive about what we are all struggling to conquer and prevent, and how we, in many places in the world, have succeeded in that, and how we need to work to preserve that and to use that to help one another to stabilize this world we share. It's one bubble of air. It's one blue-green rock. We're all on the same orbit. We How do we divide it? We draw imaginary lines around things, and yes, I understand you can't take away borders today or it all falls into chaos. But perhaps we try to see across those borders and to recognize that we really are all one species. We are all one people. And I know that we are endlessly inundated with this horror, that crisis, another war, and it never seems to end, and it's disheartening. But we have to take heart, we have to have courage, we have to be resilient and persistent and tenacious in working to uphold what we value. And maybe we need to get around what that is. Maybe we need to work towards establishing more common values, because this isn't about religion. This isn't about what a person chooses to wear. This is about control. This is about cruelty. And that comes from a place of damage. And this is in no way to excuse the people who behave this way. I I don't know how to excuse their actions, but the acts of tyrants are not entirely unlike the acts of small children having tantrums, being frustrated, wanting control of a situation. And I think that reflects that the damage goes all the way down, and we all need to work toward healing ourselves and ending the legacy of intergenerational trauma, so that we don't hear stories about how my parents went before us and now it's our turn. Maybe we put an end to the turn taking and we say the buck stops here, and we begin the work of, again, healing ourselves, and through that, by extension, the people around us. We build strong, healthy communities, and we we stand against this, that it doesn't rise up in the places where we might have enough power and influence to pull it down in the places where it has taken root. Okay, well, I certainly appreciate your time, and I hope that this has been of some value. I I do hope that we can all move toward a better way of life, and that we can look back and talk about, remember when. Until then, I thank you. Take care.